Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined in the studio today by Ali Renault and Stevie Nicol. Later on in the programme, we'll talk about Liverpool in crisis already. Despite all that big spending, they were thrashed by Milan earlier today. We'll be reflecting on what that means at the start of the season. But we'll kick things off with news that Arsenal have been waiting to hear from for a while. Viktor Gyokeres is officially an Arsenal player, making that switch from Portugal to London. It's 63 million euros plus add-ons as well. Of course, a man who just tore up the Portuguese league, goal scoring for fun last season, has made that move, and he becomes the fourth biggest transfer in Arsenal's history. Declan Rice, Pepe and Kai Havertz, 1, 2 and 3. For more on this, Gab Marcotti joins us. We're hearing from Gab in a moment. But Stevie, what sort of game changer is this for Arsenal with regards to their title hopes?
I think this absolutely puts them in the race to win the title. They've definitely taken a step forward getting this guy. What they needed was somebody who was basically a penalty box predator. That is what they needed. They've needed it for probably more than 2 or 3 years, and they finally got it. You know, a guy who doesn't really want to be involved outside the box. He doesn't really want to go and be a link-up player. He can do that if he needs to, but he doesn't want to do that. He wants to score goals. He wants to be in the penalty box, putting the ball in the back of the net. Exactly what they've needed. Now they've got it.
Where does it put them in regards to Liverpool in that title race?
Well, just below Liverpool, but very much in the conversation, very much in the picture. And so in terms of numbers, and you just mentioned that he tore up the Portuguese league, La Primera Liga. 39 goals scored domestically. How does that translate into EPL numbers? Well, we don't know that. But for sake of argument and sake of comparison, and we're going to have to compare, because if we're talking about Arsenal being in the picture with Liverpool, well, the leading goal scorer in the Premier League last year domestically was Mohamed Salah with 29 goals. So somehow we need to project that 39 goals in Portugal, it's equals to 29 goals in the Premier League. But if indeed that's a projection, and if indeed it ends up working out that way for Arsenal, where Gyokeres is scoring that number of goals, or somewhere in the picture where he's competitive with Mohamed Salah, where he's competitive with Erling Haaland, then Arsenal are very much in the conversation, and should be very much in the conversation.
But Gab, we know how much you and Jules love Kai Havertz. There's been plenty of Gab and Jules shows where you've waxed lyrical about him, how he's not given enough credit, how he plays the way that Arteta wants to play this game. Gyokeres, a very different beast. What does this mean for Arsenal's tactics then going forward?
Well, I think overall it means broadly two things, and I think they both very clearly revolve around Mikel Arteta. First of all, it means that Arteta's gone in, because when you sign somebody, he's pushed the chips to the middle of the table. When you sign somebody who's 27 years old, for that much money to play this role, you're saying, okay, the future is now. We're going to go in. You know, we've had the youngest team in the Premier League for a while now, or one of the youngest teams. Now this is kind of the piece of the puzzle. And there's no escaping. This is a gamble. This is a person who really hasn't done it in a top league, with all due respect to Portugal. So you have to take a bit of a flight of fancy. He's also a guy who's a late developer as well, right? Because, you know, he was at Coventry and then Sporting before that. He struggled to have an impact at Brighton. So in that sense, you're saying, all right, we're pushing our chips into the table and we want to win now. At the same time, though, I think it also shows from Arteta's perspective, hey, Mikel Arteta can change his mind. Because it wasn't that long ago that he thought that Kai Havertz... Not only was Kai Havertz going to be the answer at center forward, and for me personally, I think he still could have been, although he certainly needed help, but he believed in Kai Havertz so much that, you know, he let Nketiah go. He didn't go into the season with a reserve center forward, unless you believe Gabriel Jesus is that man, which I think nobody believes. When Jesus got hurt, they didn't sign a backup for Havertz in January, and then we know what happened. Havertz got hurt too. So we're showing that Arteta is saying, like, all right, I believed this before. Now I believe something else. I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it's a sign of intelligence when you can change your mind, when you can react to situations. And it's a sign of humility as well. But it certainly is a major change in direction. And it is a lot of money, and it says a lot about where you're putting your resources right now, that you're putting it into this profile of player, rather than something else, especially, of course, when you've got the Saliba situation and the Ethan Ranieri situation to deal with as well.
How much is what happened to Arsenal last season forced his hand in this?
100%. I think Gab's been very kind to Arteta. You know, I would have expected Jules to say what Gab just said. I mean, let's be honest. He's been forced into it. People have been talking about the centre forward position for at least 2 years. At least 2 years. And now, having fobbed all the people like us and other coaches and anybody who you wanted to talk about with Arsenal, everybody said the same thing. And he said, no, I know better. Well, up until now, he hasn't known better, and he's been forced into this. So I'm not giving him huge amounts of credit, to be honest.
Right.
I don't think he had a choice.
The narrative has also changed from the perspective of Mikel Arteta, in that earlier this week he was talking about how there would be 9 teams competing for the title.
Yeah, right.
That he's already deflecting, and let's talk about that group, that team. Don't focus on us. You make this sort of investment, you make this sort of signing, the attention is going to be on Arsenal, whether he wants it or not. If indeed, as Gab just said and alluded to it, if indeed you're pushing all the chips to the middle, well, that's because you're willing to play it for everything, for all. You're willing to lose it all, you're risking it all. And if you're going to risk it all, you're not going to risk it all behind 8 other teams, allow them to take the pressure. No. You want to be in the conversation, you want to be in the dance, then assume the role of one of the front runners in this league. And they are going to have to be. Arsenal are good enough to be at the front of this league and at the top of this league, but now it's a matter of delivering on the field with decisions made by the coach and the execution made by the players.
Is that Arsenal done now when it comes to the transfers, Gab?
Well, I would have thought you need to move some players out now, because if you're just looking at resources in terms of starter money, right, and who expects to start, if you just look in midfield, for example, right, you signed Zubimendi for a reason. He's going to be your anchor in midfield. You think that leaves 2 spots, assuming they play 4-3-3. You've got Martin Odegaard, who's your team captain, and you have Declan Rice, who was arguably your best player last year, right? But then somewhere, if Gyokeres is going to play center forward, you're going to want to fit in Kai Havertz. You've also spent a lot of money on Mikel Merino too. Havertz is on starter money. He costs you starter money. You have to find a way to integrate him. So I wouldn't be surprised now if they start moving some guys out. Obviously, they picked up Madueke already on the wing. I don't know if Madueke presumably he's there to compete for a job as a left wing, even though he mostly played on the right at Chelsea, because Arsenal's right winger is pretty good, right? Bukayo Saka. I think the priority now has got to be lock up Saliba and Ranieri for the foreseeable future. Otherwise, you would expect some adjustments.
Yeah, but Gab, you mentioned the likes of Marino and Havertz. They're not going anywhere, though.
Okay, so how happy is Havertz going to be in this situation? I mean, Kai Havertz
who's
is like,
paying,
look,
what do we say
guy.
in that graphic? 70 million? Like, no one's paying that for Kai Havertz now.
No, but through the magic of amortization, young Dan, you know that after 2 years at Arsenal, you're looking at maybe 50 million, 55 million. You can get that money back. He is on big wages. It's not easy. But Kai Havertz, when fit, leaving aside is he a striker, is he not a striker, whatever, he's a pressing machine.
He's not 50 million worth, though. No one's paying 50 million for Kai Havertz, Gab.
I'm sorry. I can think of... All right, put it this way. If I were Manchester United, instead of screwing around with Mateus Cunha and Mbeumo, if you've got that position with the 2 jokers behind the center forward, I would put Kai Havertz in there in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he'll buy his own ticket to go to Manchester United at the moment.
Well, I think Kai Havertz has a market. He's likely to start for Germany at the World Cup. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden, because Kai Havertz has been injured for 4 months, it's not like Kai Havertz becomes some sort of bird dropping or something that you just want to get rid of, right? But I think at some point, they have to figure a way back. Martinelli's another guy who's been linked with a move. I would assume they'd want to rebalance a little bit, rebalance the squad, and also get some money back into, back onto the balance sheet.
So it finishes Milan 4, Liverpool 2. Gav Marcotti's still with us, but let's start off, shall we, with Mr. Liverpool?
Well, I think you see the goals. To me, that's down to pre-season. They got outpaced. Milan broke well on them and did them with pace and with legs. And so it's a pre-season game, and you don't expect everybody to be 100%. And I think you saw that in the particularly the first goal with Van Dijk. Van Dijk normally, he's coming across, he's closing that down, and it's not a goal. It's probably not even a shot at goal. So I have no problem with it. There was a lot of changes. As I said, Gravenberg was playing centre-back as well to begin with. You got the young kid, Stevenson, at right back.
How did Wirtz
Gomaha was playing as well. Martin's in the middle of the park.
That's all right, we can see all that.
How
did Wirtz play?
He did fine. He had some good passes, some good movement. But, he did about as much as we'd expect him to do at this early stage.
Wow, you're very forgiving, Stevie. Manchester United draw 0-0 with Leeds, and we got days out of that because they look so flat here.
Well, that's up to you. Yeah, it's probably because you just kept beating the drum.
Right.
This is a pre-season
just turn
game.
the page, forget about it, don't worry about it.
100%,
Move on. Don't
absolutely.
even bother discussing it further.
Not really, no.
Right,
Well-
Ali, should we discuss it further?
Well, let's discuss Florian Wirtz
Yeah.
and playing as a false nine, which could be a role that he could have with Liverpool, but in my estimation would not be the best role for him in Liverpool. And I think is a product of being the first game of preseason and who's available and who can play certain positions. But what we saw from Florian Wirtz at his best in this particular game is, can I get in positions in which I put a question in the minds of defender? Do I step into that space, or is that the responsibility of the tracking midfielders? When he was able to do that, and then he was on the half turn and he's going at defenders, is when he nearly found Harvey Elliott in behind. That is a good example of what Florian Wirtz can do for Liverpool. The other new player, Jeremy Frimpong. What we saw from him in the second 45 minutes when he came on is exactly what he was at Bayer Leverkusen. All of it. They're getting him behind, dynamic, active. He's going to find the spaces in behind. He's going to get himself in good position. That first touch to get around the defender as that ball is coming over the top, ideal. But then he gets in the 18-yard box or around the 18-yard box, and things change for him. That second touch was not nearly as ideal. Took him to a wider area, and then there was time and space for him to continue to drive towards goal. He decides to take a shot from a tight angle, opportunity gone. So many times he got around defenders, it was time to find a cross. The cross wasn't quite there. And so if you're a Liverpool and a Liverpool fan, then do you pay attention to the fact that he's always getting himself in dangerous position, that he has a change of pace, or do you pay attention at the final product? It really is what you want to pay attention to when it comes to Jeremy Frimpong, because he can be dangerous. Does that mean that he can be productive? That's a different question.
There was no Luis Diaz in the squad. Obviously, a lot of rumours about his future away from Liverpool. This is what Arne Slot had to say about
that. In Lucio's situation, it was, yeah. There's a lot of rumours around him lately, and I cannot go into that. But he's training really well with us, but we've decided for now not to play him yet. And in Darwin's situation, he's trained also really well and played a few good games for us already this season. But he was injured, so we didn't want to take the risk.
Diaz is off, yeah. Bayern, Gab?
Yeah, well, just like, what do you want him to say? Like, we don't want to take a chance with Darwin and Diaz because we need to sell them so that we can go and sign Alexander Isak. Is that? I mean, it would have been cool if he said that. No, look, I think Bayern have been in for him for a while. I think it's a question of from Bayern's perspective it's a question of reaching a deal that makes sense. I would have thought. I mean, I haven't reported too closely on this, but given the situation, I would have thought that this might have gotten wrapped a little bit quicker. I don't know if there's been a hiccup along the way. But there's no question that he fits what Bayern wants right now.
What about Nunez? Where's he going to end up, Cam?
It's a better question. Darwin Nunez has been so savaged by the media, and of course he costs so much money, that right now it's almost like he's toxic. You talk to some people, and they say Darwin Nunez at the right price could do a very good job for many Premier League teams because he does a lot of other things that maybe don't necessarily involve scoring, or maybe wasn't the right fit for Arne Slot or indeed Jurgen Klopp before him. I would assume that at this stage it gets more and more difficult, and maybe you can find a spot for him abroad. It may be that you take a loss on him, and it may be that he has to take a step back on his wages to make it happen. But where I live in England, he's become almost a figure of fun, which isn't really fair to him, despite his underperformance. But yeah, I think they would have to look to shift him, and if not, you go back to Arne and say, listen, make it work, have him help. We need a center forward. You won the title with Darwin Nunez last year. Now we've added Florian Wirtz and Jeremy Frimpong. Figure out a way to go and then that Ekitike fell as well. So figure out a way to make it happen.
And of course, maybe Isak. We heard from Eddie Howe about the possibility of Alexander Isak making that switch from Newcastle to Liverpool, saying there's a whole football club that has to make the decision. The ownership, together with the board of directors, especially with the money involved in modern-day transfers. The manager, of course, has an opinion, but ultimately the decision will rest with the board. We'd love him to continue his journey at Newcastle. I certainly hope he stays, and I said last weekend I was confident that he'd stay. I don't see anything that's going to change that opinion of mine at the moment, but it's football, and who knows what the future may bring. Percentage chance Isak's a Liverpool player at the end of the transfer window, Gab?
This is just a gut feeling, and I reserve the right to go. And you can ask me this again. I'll probably give you a different percentage. But right now, I'm going to say something like 30%.
Oh, that's really low.
I think Newcastle have the means to give him an important new contract, maybe one with a release clause. And I think for Liverpool, they have to move a lot of people out. And I don't know. I don't know that when you've got Salah, Ekitike, Gakpo, is this really what you need? Is this really what moves the needle for you? If those numbers are going to be 150 million, something like that, I don't know. Maybe you can move this year down the line if he gets a new contract with a release clause or with some sort of arrangement, maybe. But right now, as we talk right now, 30% feels about right.
How hard you push, Steve? It was interesting yesterday. You were talking about maybe too many new faces coming in.
It's a lot of money for something that. Do you really need it? As Gab's saying, basically, because of what you've got. And if I look at Liverpool's team, the spot I think they need help in is centre back. So, do you go and put everything into Isak, and then you're praying basically that Konate and Van Dijk don't get injured because they got nothing else. Even we saw Gravenberch played against Milan. I think primarily because Joe Gomez was injured, but Joe Gomez has been out for goodness knows how long. Konsa's gone, so you're looking at Van Dijk and Konate. Do you really spend all your money on another?
So you say don't bother with Isak?
I'm not saying don't bother is not the way.
Don't waste your money.
That's what you said. I just think I would prefer if they went out and got a top-class centre-back, considering what they have going forward right now.
Gab, is it fair to say this isn't going to get done quickly?
I don't think so. I mean, as Stevie said, they have a priority at center back as well. Van Dijk isn't getting any younger. Konate, of course, has a contractual situation as well. Remember, Liverpool, we all thought they were going to get Dean Huyson until Real Madrid came along and convinced him to go there instead and paid his release fee. We took it as a given that they would need to add something at the back. If you could travel back in time, if they hadn't done the Ekitike deal, then maybe it would be a different situation. Maybe you could put those resources towards them, towards Isak. Isak would have been more expensive, of course, but it would have been different. But now, what does Isak walk into? I mean, we saw Soboslai's performance. People are taking it as given. You remember when Wirtz first signed and people were saying, oh, look, it's 4-2-3-1 and Wirtz is going to be in the hole and blah, blah, blah. Well, Soboslai's got something to say about this too. And where Soboslai's going to go? Can you get money for Soboslai to fund this Isak transfer? It's difficult. There's a lot of moving parts. To me, it seems obvious that unless somebody in Saudi says, oh, I'll give you 150 million for Darwin Nunez, and maybe we can talk, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I think this is a slow burn. I think right now, if anything, it's about shifting Diaz to get the funds so that you can sign the center back, which is a priority, and maybe claw some money back from your other expenditures this summer.
Stevie says Liverpool can win the quadruple without Isak. What says you?
Well, I think they can. And once you made the decision to go after Hugo Ekitike, however that decision came about, you put yourself in a situation in which going after Isak is chasing it without paying attention to what's going on everywhere else on the field. And to the point that Stevie was making in terms of how many new faces are now at Liverpool, then it starts changing the personality of the group that was so very successful last season. So if I'm Liverpool, I'm addressing needs. That position, I don't think is a position of need as compared to the center back. You address that first. If Isak happens to fall in your lap somehow, then obviously you don't turn him away. Of course not. He is that good of a player. But is he $150 million better player than Hugo Ekitike to have that role in this team? And I don't think that that's the case, given the needs that you have in the back line.
Just a reminder, you can see Liverpool and all their new faces in action against Crystal Palace in the Community Shield. Of course, the traditional curtain race to start the new season. That is live and exclusive on ESPN Plus at 9:30 Eastern on August the 10th. It took two teams to tango, of course, in that victory against Liverpool. For Milan, of course, on paper, a great result for them, Gab.
Yeah, but nobody's getting overly excited because they know that it's a preseason friendly and it only means so much. I think what you got to see quite clearly is that Max Allegri, this is his Milan. This is how he wants to play. So what we saw before with Fonseca, with Pioli, with some more of the analytics guys being involved and coming out and saying, well, we're going to take the game to the opposition. No, I think we saw, at least against Liverpool, they're very happy, say, hey, you guys have the ball. We got the fast guy at the other end. We'll unleash Leao on the wing. I think if you're a Milan fan, what you feel really good about is, Leao certainly looks very, very hungry, and that's important early on. You can see Loftus-Cheek. Loftus-Cheek with certain coaches, like with Maurizio Sarri in his season at Chelsea, or indeed with Pioli, can be absolutely devastating. Does he have that connection with Allegri, and will he stay fit? That would be a big plus. They feel that they still need another midfielder. They're hoping to sign Jashari from Bruges, which, great player, but you just signed Samuel Ricci to be your midfield playmaker. And if you're going to play like this, if you're going to play more on the counter, do you even need those playmakers? More than one playmaker type? I don't know. But yeah, you can tell. There's a different sheriff in town. We haven't even mentioned Modric yet. What can he contribute off the bench? And this is going to be done the Allegri way. And again, with Allegri, it tends to be shorter term success. None of this kids building for the future, or not just that. So I think that was pretty obvious from the Liverpool game how they want to play.
Let's talk about a couple of Manchester United players who are very much sitting on the naughty seat at the moment. Jadon Sancho, linked to Juventus, Gab.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this before. This doesn't make a lot of sense for me. For a number, it doesn't make sense for me from Juve's perspective because they just signed Chico Conceição, which means in terms of wide players, they've got him, they've got Nico Gonzalez, they've got Kenan Yildiz, they've got a bunch of options there. They've got Tim Weah, although obviously he looks like he's on his way out. So do you really need a winger? I mean, even though you think Jadon Sancho can be your big reclamation project, does this really make sense? Not to mention that with Tudor and his 3-4-2-1, he doesn't really play with wingers. The two behind are more kind of people who go all over the pitch. And from Sancho's perspective, man, you've got a year left on your contract with Manchester United. You had Chelsea there ready to take you, and you couldn't agree terms on a multi-year deal. Now, let me let you in on a secret. Chelsea probably could pay you more in terms of wages than what Juventus are ready to put on the table. So this is the part I don't understand. I mean, unless he's determined to go to the Champions League, in which case maybe he thinks he's got a better shot with Juve, and maybe he's going to take a pay cut in exchange for multiple years. But it's really hard to see how Juve are going to do that. Juve, of course, also have Vlahovic and Colomwani, who they need to sort out. So it seems really, really odd. I think there's an intermediary who's got the mandate to sell him in Italy, who's really, really, really pushing him. But if you're Sancho, the alternative is just to sit back and say, "Hey, I'm a free agent in a year's time. Who wants me?"
Is Jadon Sancho worth the attention that we give him?
No.
I mean, you look at the productivity over the last 4 seasons, and we just show the numbers there, and it's just, for an attacking player, playing in teams that usually will be attacking teams, and this is what you're getting out of Jadon Sancho, and yet we continue to recycle this conversation, and I tell you.
Should we veto this like Liverpool's pre-season matches?
Well, I don't know that yes, the conversation about Jadon Sancho becoming the player that people thought he would become, yes, I think we can veto that conversation. The numbers don't warrant the attention that we give Jadon Sancho and that we have given Jadon Sancho over the years.
Unfortunately for Jadon Sancho, the person who likes Jadon Sancho the most is Jadon Sancho and nobody else.
Wow.
Oh, all right. Wow. Okay. That was
meanwhile, Garnacho to Napoli, Gab.
Oh, this is a complete slow burn. And look, Ruben Amorim and United have come out. They've briefed. We got a deadline to resolve the Garnacho-Sancho situation. Guess what? Anthony too, chuck him in there. You don't really get to decide that because these people have contracts, right? So I think Napoli are sitting there. I think Napoli have moved on, frankly. They got Noah Lang. They would love to get another sort of winger type, so they're looking for Ndoye. They may yet pull that off, but I think they like the idea. All right, we have Ndoye, and then, hey, look, maybe Garnacho's the alternative. And if the price drops, and if we can reach a deal with Garnacho's people, remember, Garnacho United view him as a real asset because he's on a very small contract, for what he is, because he's still on his original deal. And it's a longer term contract, right? So that's why they weren't insane when they were talking 60, 70 million. The thing is, nobody wants to pay that. And I think Napoli are willing to wait, just as they're willing to wait for Ndoye. And I think they're confident that they'll get one guy or the other as the days pass and the clock winds down towards the window shutting. At the same time, I really would not be surprised if somebody else comes in for Garnacho, because I'm not saying he's the greatest winger in the world, but he's young. He's already got a lot of games, a lot of experience under his belt in the Premier League. He's shown he can be productive. I think somebody will come along once the price starts to drop.
Gab, you mentioned Muani before in his future. Could that be at Old Trafford?
Oh, I think Paris Saint-Germain would love it if it was at Old Trafford, because guess what? You've paid them $6 million in loan fee for half a season. And now Juve are coming back and saying, yeah, we want to keep Randall Colomwani, but we don't want to pay a loan fee. And Paris Saint-Germain, well, do you want to pay a transfer fee? No, we don't want to pay a transfer fee either, or we just want to pay a very small one. Look, if he's definitely available. He's not in Paris Saint-Germain's plans, that much is obvious. But again, this is the thing that gets me, right? You asked me about, could he be a target for Manchester United? Well, he's been on the market. He's been available for a long, long time, right? We knew as early as last September that Luis Enrique didn't like the guy and wanted to put him on the market. And that's why he moved on loan to Juve in January. So if you're United, presumably you're doing some planning, presuming you're projecting forward, presumably you have targets. If you wanted Colomwani, you would have moved sooner, right? That's the part. And that leaves me skeptical. Unless, of course, they turn into some panic thing in the last 72 hours of the transfer window, and maybe they realize that Rasmus Højlund is still there, and Matthias Cunha really isn't a center forward.
What about Vlahovic, Cam?
So Vlahovic, I think the term is pig in a very happy place.
Right. Stevie and Shepherd's Pie.
Look, when Dusan Vlahovic signed for Juventus, he signed this weird contract which had this massive sort of accelerator clause in the last 2 years of his contract. That means that in his final year of his contract, a bit like Jadon Sancho, he's got a year left. He's making close to £400,000 a week, if you like to think of your numbers in weekly pounds. And from his perspective, he's like, look, I think I'm very, very good. I think I wasn't appreciated before. I think he's really, really good too, actually. He's probably not 400K a week good, and Juventus can't afford that anyway. So Juventus have gone to him and said, like, dude, you have to take a pay cut. If we will keep you, but you have to take a pay cut. You know, let's go 3-year deal or whatever. And he's saying, well, hang on a minute. Elsewhere, they've tried to pitch him elsewhere. People have tried to come in for him, but why would you pay 50, 60 million for somebody who's going to be on a free in a year's time? And I think that the reality with Dusan Vlahovic is that, unlike, say, Jadon Sancho at Manchester United, who, if he doesn't move, isn't going to get playing time, I think Vlahovic will end up getting playing time at Juve, simply because they need him, because they don't have other real options at center forward other than Jonathan David, who just arrived. So he's still going to get his minutes. There's a World Cup coming up, and then he could be a really big free agent. He's still relatively young. I'll tell you what, I mean, people listening to Gavin Joe show will think I'm obsessed with Vlahovic and Osimhen. But the way everybody was like, ooh, Sesko this, Ikitika that, Gyokeres this and that, and ignored those two other guys and have continued to ignore them, man, it either means they really don't like their agents or I'm really missing a trick here, because Vlahovic has been there. He's done that. He's proven. He gives you effort. He gives you work rate, and he scores goals. I mean, that's the simple fact of the matter is. So if you can go to him, if you can talk 3-year deal, 4-year deal, obviously cut, but you're not going to make 400 grand a week, not straight away anyway. I think you can operate, and I think Juve will take a lot less than what they were originally asking for, and you can work that number down. And maybe that's what clubs are hoping to do.
Gab back with us on Extra Time, as is Ali and Stevie as well, of course. You can check out the latest edition over on our YouTube channel. I think people are surprised, and they've certainly vocalised that over the last few days, with Real Madrid being favourites to win La Liga title, Barcelona defending champions coming in as second favourites. This is what Laporta had to say about what's going to happen this summer, the remainder of the transfer window. In principle, there won't be any more signings now. We have a good squad and a coach who wants to bolster the first team when necessary with youngsters from the reserve team. We don't want to break up the team spirit that was being built over the last season in the squad. That's what hooks supporters again, and we want to keep that magic. Gabby's still with us. Ali, are Barca going to be okay with the squad that they have?
Absolutely they are. Barcelona were far and away the best team in La Liga last season. And a little bit better defending in Champions League, and they are in the finals of that tournament. And who knows what happened in that match potentially against PSG. So they're not that far off. I'm not saying that Marcus Rashford is the gap between...
No, but 2 fit fullbacks might be, which of course they are missing in that Inter game.
Yes, but my point entirely is Barcelona were very much at the top of the pile and the top of the pyramid when it comes to the teams in Europe last season, and certainly in La Liga. And that was proven on the field against Real Madrid, who are the favorites this season. And if you go back and watch those games against Real Madrid, most of those games were not competitive. They played 4 times. 3 out of those 4 matches were not competitive at all. It was all dominated by Barcelona. And so if there's a team that should be concerned here, it should be Real Madrid. How do we catch up to Barcelona? How do we make up that difference? I think Barcelona are in a really good position. And in some ways, I agree with what Laporta is saying. And I don't know, this sounds very much like an explanation as to why they're not signing any more players and where the team spirit, squad spirit, that's important. I think there's something to be said about that. That you have a young team to begin with enough older players that there creates a nice balance. Once you start bringing other personalities into the group, sometimes it doesn't fit nearly as perfectly as it did last season. So I think Barcelona are in a good place. They're in a better place now than I think they were at the beginning of last season, where we didn't think they were capable of doing what they did. They impressed all of us during the course of the season, and I think they're only going to get better.
This is the kind of anti-Liverpool.
This seems a little strange. This almost feels like flip-flopping from last year, where this time last year we're going, oh, Real Madrid, they're getting Mbappe as well. This is the team to beat. They're going to have the same squad. They're going to be this. They're going to be that. They're just going to be better. It seems like the other way around, because I'm thinking, how can Real Madrid possibly be favourites?
Yeah.
How can they possibly? Everything Ali said about Barcelona is spot on. It's like, why would you touch it? That's why when they talk about Nico Williams coming, we were all going, hold on a minute, why are you doing this? Why are you upsetting the apple cart?
You stated in the past, Stevie, that when you're top of the tree, you need to make sure you bring in big players as well to keep yourself at that level.
If you have the wherewithal, it doesn't seem like Barcelona have the money to do that, because I'm pretty sure they would if they could. But there's nothing wrong with, people always talk about, well, if you're not going forward, you're going backwards. Well, I don't quite honestly agree with that, really. What they've got right now is fantastic. And there's nothing wrong with this same group, same squad, probably same 11 starting the season off and expecting them to be, there's no reason why they can't be as good. And again, we don't know what's going on below them. Real Madrid, no idea what we're going to get. Atletico Madrid, going to be the same. They'll probably have some decent results and then fall away. So, yeah, it seems like a reverse from last year.
And just think.
That's a reverse.
Yeah,
I saw that. Thank you.
Think about, it's one more year of experience for a guy like Pau Cubarsí. It's one more year for Lamine Yamal. Is Gavi fully recovered from an ACL injury? So it's not just the signings that you made in Joan Garcia and Marcus Rashford. It's these players that are getting more experience, that are potentially getting better. And we expect that Pau Cubarsí is going to be better. Scarily so, we expect that Lamine Yamal is going to continue to mature as a player, that Gavi is going to be fully recovered, that Pedri will have yet another good season. So, again, there are a lot of reasons to be excited about Barcelona, and you really have to search for reasons as to why you can find negativity surrounding this group.
Go on, Gab.
I'll help you. I'll find negativity not about the group, but about something very, very specific. Yeah, Pau Cubarsí is going to be a year older, a year better. Great. But Inigo Martinez is going to be a year older. And do we think that Araujo can regain his mojo and go back to being the player we thought he might be? That, to me, is the single biggest caveat about this team right now. It's great. Gavi comes back. Pedri's going to have a full season, whatever. But then you go and you make that investment on Marcus Rashford and his wages. Man, I would have spent that money on somebody who can help me at the back. Maybe they have somebody in Barcelona B that I'm not familiar with who's going to go and monster everybody the same way Cubarsí did, and it's not going to be an issue. Maybe he wants to play Frankie de Jong at center back. I don't know. But that, to me, would be like a really major, unaddressed potential weakness at the back. And that's what surprises me, that Laporta says, no, let's close the books now, we're done.
Just a reminder, you can see every single La Liga match live on ESPN Plus, including, of course, Barcelona's opener away against Mallorca on Saturday, August the 16th. Bit of MLS action, why not? Columbus taking on Orlando. This will be goalless as we take the action to the 63rd minute. Now, nothing is given originally here, but then the ref will take a look at VAR and give handball.
Hey.
Yep, well, there we go. That's what you get. It was given. Diego Rossi makes it 1-0.
Yeah, beautifully taken. Sends the keeper the wrong way.
10 minutes later, Enrique with the header to make it 1-1.
It's a good ball from the left-hand side, but it's a really good header. Jumping in between two defenders, finds that header to the far post. 1-1.
3 minutes later, Enrique will make it 2-1.
Nice, simple football. Ball inside the fullback. First time across. First time finish.
You love it, Stevie.
That's the way you play the game.
Orlando would win this game by 3-1.
By then, Columbus had committed a whole lot of numbers forward. They also committed the near post as well forward. 3-1.
Elsewhere, Stevie's hold on stomping ground. New England taking on Montreal. Just 3 minutes into this one, the Revs would take the lead.
Nice little pass from Hill. Beautiful finish from Canclay.
Montreal, they would get the equaliser here. Osuo here.
The usage of his body, the turn and the finish. Nice.
And then Dante Sealy would make it 2-1.
Yeah, a nice little ball from Caden Clark, and then the finish from Sealy. Pure power.
And then late on, Escobar would make it 3-1.
A lot of good seats available at Gillette, by the way.
A lot of goals available, you know.
Taking a look at what that all means, the Revs currently sitting 9th in the table. Meanwhile, San Diego taking on Nashville. Just the one goal in this game, and it would come 8 minutes into the second half. And it'll be Chuck Lozano with the goal.
Yeah, Chucky Lozano with a nice little dummy here as well. Kicks it all off through his legs. Nice camp finish. Goalkeeper maybe should have tried to save it instead of watching it, but probably wouldn't have stopped it anyway.
Elsewhere, LAFC taking on Portland. Just one goal in this tie, and it would come from the visitors. Paredes here with the winner.
Yeah, I mean, you got to question the defender. There's nobody really attacking that other than Paredes, and he gets his reward with a glancing header.
So taking a look at what that means, San Diego sit top. They are 4 points clear of Vancouver, looking around that playoff places. Colorado Rapids level on points with Austin. Austin do have, though, 2 games in hand. Football Americas returns to your screens then on Thursday. Casey, Herc and Christina to break down everything you need to know, or Monday, sorry. Bring everything you need to know
Also on Thursday,
about what's going on. Yeah, indeed. I'm excited because Ali's on next Thursday.
Oh,
That's
thank
fine.
you. Thank you, Dan.
Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you very much for your questions. Ali is here, Stevie as well. Gab Marcotti joins us as well. Gab, I was going to ask you about your lamp behind you on the couch, but then halfway through the show I realised it was a fan.
Yes, absolutely, it's a fan.
Oh, back there? Yeah, I had
Yeah.
to move some stuff around. Yes, it is a fan. It's a fan that's kind of redundant, though, because I have air conditioning now.
Wow.
We've installed it throughout the house, yes.
Look at that. Oh, Mark Ogden doesn't get that sort of money.
No, he does
Oh,
not.
no. Arsenal have the advantage of having a more settled squad who gel with and understand each other better. The addition of Gyokeres, of Gyokeres, does this give them an edge, Stevie, over Liverpool, who have had their side with lots of new faces?
I wouldn't really say that it gives them an edge, but I would say that it's harder when you have so many more new faces, particularly if they're going to start. Because it's one thing playing pre-season games, but then when the first game of the season kicks off, it's a different ball game. It's a different intensity. The whole game is completely different. And so when you add a lot of new faces at one time, there is that little element of you're not quite sure, as opposed to Arsenal with pretty much the same squad with a couple of additions.
Yeah.
You know, Gyokeres and Zubimendi, that'll probably be it.
Madueke?
Yeah, he won't start. So, yeah, in some ways, a tiny little
Start
edge.
in his place.
Martinelli.
You think so?
Yeah.
After last season?
Why would Madueke play?
Well, because they spent
What's
a lot of money on him. They obviously see him as a starter over Martinelli, who's
why do you think
disappointing as the
Chelsea
season
sold him?
went on.
They didn't sell him because he was going to turn into some superstar.
So what a stupid argument. What a stupid
but-
argument. Why did Chelsea sell him? Oh, well, wait, why did Arsenal buy him?
Do you think Chelsea got rid of him because he was going to turn into
why
Cole
did-
Palmer?
So why did Arsenal buy him then? Because they felt sorry
That
for
is
Chelsea?
the question. That is the question.
Right,
There
so
you
they
go.
bought him, but they're not
Oh,
gonna-
wait a minute.
they're not
Oh,
gonna-
wait a minute.
they're
Hold
not
on.
gonna start
Hold on.
him.
Hold on. Squad player. There you go.
Right, why is the squad player
Well,
up there?
because you were looking for the answer earlier up there.
Why is the squad player up there?
Well, because your answers were over there
Why did
earlier.
Chelsea sell him? Oh my goodness gracious.
in the earlier part of that, in the earlier part of that answer, what was going on? What was all this? Why were you doing that?
Oh, it's just when he starts his nonsense. He gives it all that.
I just thought you were having a seizure.
I think they've bought Madueke to start, haven't they?
Yeah.
You just
okay.
forgot.
Oh, no,
You
that's
forgot.
fine.
You
Never
forgot.
nothing.
That's fine. You say it's your
Madueke's not
you,
starting.
You forgot.
Well,
But
whatever.
you made to.
No.
That's fine.
Martinelli will start.
Doesn't believe that for a second.
Look at him. Oh,
You don't. You just forgot.
Well, the
You
master.
forgot. That was it.
oh, sorry, Master. You're all knowing.
Stevie, the forward group for Liverpool is all anyone's talking about at the moment. Are you concerned about the situation at centre-back?
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about this in the show. No
Yeah.
one cares about defenders. There's already a lack of depth, no new Konate contract, and Gomez is now injured.
Yeah.
Feels like this should be the primary area of focus.
Well,
Who do you find?
topology, well, that's a good question. Isak would have been the answer, in my opinion.
Right.
But he's gone to Madrid.
Right. Gay.
Yeah, I would take Gay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Liverpool don't need Franz Beckenbauer type or anything like that. They need a guy who's going to pretty much do what Konate does most of the time.
Right.
You know exactly what you're going to get. He's not going to make too many mistakes, if any. He's going to be solid. Just that's what you need defensively, in my opinion.
You know where you can find them?
Up there.
Up there.
Up there.
It's
Gab.
on Dan's list.
And Liverpool in for any defenders. Have a look up there, avoid.
I'm just looking up at the squad players up there. 'Cause, we keep them up in the attic. There's no question they need somebody, and I think they were badly stung when he didn't get Heisen. I think it's something that Richard Hughes and co need to address, and maybe presumably they have a plan for this because they're clever people. And maybe this Isak thing is just a giant smoke screen, and they'll rock up with Mark Gay or somebody. I think they probably feel pretty good that there are kind of established center backs on the market. Just look at Chelsea. You can get any one of those guys. If you think you can extend Konate, and then you just need a body to be kind of your third or fourth center back, then that's fine. You can look at somebody like Chalobah. Maybe they like Badiashile. I don't know. You can get those guys for not a lot of money. Certainly not 70, 80 million. I think the issue becomes if somehow this Konate situation goes pear-shaped, and then all of a sudden in a year's time, because Virgil van Dijk knows that Father Time is undefeated, in a year's time you might find yourself needing two starting caliber center backs. I think that is everybody's fear here, right? So I think it's important you can get somebody who is presentable at center back, and that you do so this summer.
Stevie, how does having a teammate in the news like Isak impact the dressing room? Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, it's disappointing. You don't want your best players leaving.
Okay.
And generally, you don't say much to them either. You keep it the road, unless you're his busy mate. You don't really mention it. It's not really brought up.
Okay.
But you're disappointed because you hope they don't go.
Wow.
But there kind of feels an inevitability about it.
Right.
But so yeah, it's disappointing. Disappointing would be the right way.
But you understand it, though.
Yeah.
That's
No,
the
we all
thing.
get it because if we were all pretty much in the same position,
Yeah.
then we all understand it. Which is why it doesn't cause a whole lot of ruction. It's just disappointing.
Gab, Rafael Leao looked very sharp today. That was in a pre-season friendly that Stevie dismissed.
He's timing it well.
How come none of the top teams elsewhere in Europe have come for him?
Because he hasn't had a great season, because he's got a new contract with Milan, which makes him expensive. Look, on a good day, Rafael Leao looks like the guy he was compared to the very young version of Cristiano, right? He's a guy who he runs past players, he scores, he assists. I think this past season, both with Fonseca and with Conceição, you saw the other side of Leao. He is a guy who contributes very, very little off the ball. And it's really hard in the modern game to have a winger who doesn't work hard enough, who doesn't follow instructions. I mean, look at Real Madrid with Vini and Mbappe. Those guys struggle to do it. How's Leao going to do it? On top of that, I don't think he's had the same upside offensively. And so you still look at him, you still look at those moments when he's unplayable, and you say, can I bottle that? But then every year he gets a year older. Every year he gets, he's got the new contract now. And I think you have to be really, really confident that you can get him to perform consistently to go and make that kind of investment. And I don't think many clubs out there are in that position right now.
Ali, do you think the signing of De Paul is strictly a decision to appease Messi? Or do you think De Paul can really help Inter Miami win MLS Cup this season?
Well, I think it makes sense to bring a player like Rodrigo De Paul. And certainly the big question would be is how much does he go about embracing MLS and not thinking about, well, I was at Atletico Madrid and now I'm here. Somehow this is a step down. I'm going to have to take a step back. His game is based upon intensity and getting around the field.
Being mean.
And being a pain in the backside. It has to be absolutely, completely, 100% annoying to play against Rodrigo De Paul. But if you have him in your team, you love him. And that's why Lionel Messi wants to have him in his team in Inter Miami. And that's why he loves having him with the national team as well in Argentina. I think it's a good signing for Inter Miami. I still have concerns about this team defensively, but he will go a long way in solidifying his presence and the presence of the midfield in Inter Miami, allowing then a platform from which Lionel Messi can do the things that he does so often for this club. It's a good signing for Inter Miami. I don't know that this would have been my move had I been Rodrigo De Paul, because I still think that Rodrigo De Paul has something to offer to a team like Atletico Madrid, but he decided to go elsewhere, and he's going to be taken care of at Inter Miami.
I know what the answer would be here in the studio, so Gab, I'm going to ask you this as Mr. Contrarian on the panel. Should the Premier League have an all-star game with other European leagues? All-stars could play against each other. Would the panel be willing to pay to watch them play?
I don't know if I should tell you that I think it's kind of a stupid idea. And I'm not saying this just because it was Todd Bowley's brilliant brainchild, as if nobody'd ever thought about this before. Like in the past, Stevie will tell you, because he's a little bit older, that they used to have League 11s from different countries face each other and whatever. The reality is, everybody who goes and does this, when the players do turn up, they generally tend to half-ass it. Players can tell it's not that exciting. All-star games, I think in general, even in every U.S. sport, aren't what they once were, because people want to see effort and not just guys out there looking to avoid injury. So yeah, for all those reasons, it makes no sense. I could also throw in the fact that this is a pretty tactical game, football. And if you throw 11 guys together for one weekend, yuck, 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 isn't it fun? Look, it's Vini passing the ball to Yamal, passing the ball to Mohamed Salah. Okay, fine. But it's not football. It's kind of like a bit of a freak show. It would get old very, very fast.
When's the last time you paid to watch a game, Gab?
When's the last time I paid to watch a game?
Yeah.
It was in April, I think.
Oh, what was the game?
Yeah. What's that?
What was the game?
I went to see QPR.
Oh, wow, you paid to watch QPR. That's quite. You didn't use the Marcotti nows to try and get in and flex those muscles?
No, it's a day out and it's fun. I enjoy going as a civilian to football matches.
I played in an All-Star game.
Did you?
Yes. I believe it was 91. It was the English League 11 against the Italian League 11.
Wow.
In Napoli. And there was precisely 45 people and a dog at the game.
Wow.
You counted them.
There was nobody there.
Cared.
Nobody.
Do you get paid for that?
I don't think so.
Oh, dear.
I might have got something, but nothing much.
Nothing to write home about.
Nope, nobody turned up.
Oh.
That was the last. I think that's the last time they did it.
Oh dear.
The only All-Star game that still works, to Gab's point, it's the baseball All-Star game, because it's still the best pitcher from one league, from the National League, against the best hitters from the American League. And you can still have that matchup, and the pitcher's still throwing 100 miles per hour, and the hitter's still trying to hit the ball. It's still baseball as it's supposed to be played, as opposed to Gab's point, when you play in an all-star game or whatever the case may be in the NBA or MLS or any other exhibition, that's what they become, glorified exhibitions, and people are not playing the sport the way it's supposed to be played.
The baseball one, though, do they still have whoever wins it gets the extra game in the final the next year?
They used to do that. The winning team,
Yeah.
that team would host the first game in the World Series.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure whether that's still the case or not.
Which I think would be the same as having home advantage.
Yes, home field advantage.
But of course, at some point, though, even the baseball All-Star game, because they have pitch counts and limitations and whatnot on the amount of pitches that these poor darlings can throw, we've had it ending in a tie, which is why this year, I think for the first time, they had something called a swing-off at the end, which made it more exciting. It's kind of like a home run derby, where there's like some no-name just tossing the ball over the plate, and you have like your 3 best guys have X amount of chances. Look, yeah, it's so big that none of you guys watched it, right? You have no idea what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, Gab, and I
You're
watched
from Venezuela.
it.
You
Okay,
guys play
well, fine.
baseball,
I don't count.
There
Fine.
we go. Right.
No, you count
you go.
more. You should be watching.
I told you I
national
watched
sport.
it.
There you are. Beautiful.
Okay.
I was watching England-India.
All right.
That brings us to the end of today's
Baseball?
show. ESPN FC.